some proposals for the Gills Rock properties. We'll know more about that, I would suspect, by the August meeting, so. Okay, so going on to public input, it's your opportunity to address the board on any given subject or on any agendized subject. Any general comments anybody would like to make? Carl, please.
Carl Zopfe, Gills Rock. First of all, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to congratulate you on your 50th golden anniversary of
Thank you.
the Blue Dolphin.
Thank you.
Job well done.
You don't, you know, it's, sometimes you just don't know when to quit.
Yeah,
Or as I've often said, if you lose your mind.
I knew when to quit and I got out of town and came up here.
Okay.
I just want to speak about two items on the agenda at the last meeting and what I consider to be a rather troubling breakdown in procedure and protocol. I have a lifelong experience with this stuff, so feel free to offer my opinion whether or not it's warranted. The first thing was I'll cover the last one first. Item 14 last month, discussion and possible action, the formation of the Liberty Grove Sanitary District 1 and Utility District Number 1. One thing that you don't do is bring items up for discussion in which the members on that committee have no knowledge of it. And Bob Tidball was a brand-new member on that committee, and he didn't even know what the motion was. He said, I don't know what you're talking about. You know, he has to be brought in on this process, and you weren't brought in on the process. And Mr. Goss, I don't believe, had much awareness of the process. And as a result, you kind of wandered around, and I don't think any decision was made. But this thing should have been discussed more properly, either in an ad hoc meeting or in closed session, particularly with legal help. And the other thing I want to bring up is the 13, consider use of the Klinke Garage property. How many years have we been discussing this? 2, 3, 4? Gentlemen and lady, you should have known what you want to do with the property by the time you obtained ownership of it. This is on you, that we have no idea where the legal liability of that property rests is an appalling lack of legal advice concerning this thing. This should have been done years ago. You should know how you want to dispose of the property and handle it. This is something that should be part of the discussion, and if you don't know, then get legal advice so you can make up your mind on what to do. You know, I think this has been something we've desired for many years. You should know what you're getting into, and it was apparent at last meeting you didn't know what you're getting into. Hopefully by tonight when these things come up, you will know what you're getting into, because I didn't see it last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other general comments? All right, anybody wishing to speak on an agenda item? Yes.
Item 15, please.
15? Anybody else, please? Yes.
Number 13.
Number 13.
13? Cheryl, got it?
Who said that? Who said after?
Cheryl.
13?
13.
Oh,
Okay, then going on to number 14 on the agenda, or excuse me, number 13 on the agenda, consider the amendment to ordinance 15-2, liquid manure spreading.
We had some people wanted to comment on
Comments? Please.
My name is Mike Barkey. I'm from Allison Bay, and I want to talk about the amendment to the manure ordinance. There are about 16 or 17 factory farms in Door County and Kewaunee counties. Brown County also has CAFOs. A factory farm is a farm with more than 1,000 cows or animal units. In Kewaunee County, there are over 100,000 cows. Every day, each cow produces manure equivalent to about 18 humans. Unlike human waste that is treated via a municipal waste treatment plant or a septic system, cow manure is spread over fields with thin layers of soil and porous karst rock. With increasing production of so much manure and decreasing amount of land upon which to spread the manure, factory farm owners are looking for areas and fields farther from factory farms upon which to spread the manure. Manure tank trucks are hauling this manure longer and longer distances to be spread in other areas. These tankers are now bringing their manure loads to Door County. I believe we all share the responsibility to protect our environment and our health. So I'd urge you to amend the town's manure spreading ordinance to prohibit manure produced outside the town from being transported into the town from other areas to be spread here in the town of Liberty Grove. Additionally, I would also ask you to consider including cheese waste and whey, related waste from being transported in here to the county, to the town as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheryl Culver, 11728 Lakeview Road. I'd like to, well, I can't articulate things as well as Mr. Barkey, but I fully support everything that he has said. Where I live, I have I have land that is rented out to the north of me and to the west of me, and they're moderate size parcels. I have seen where other farms have been brought in to harvest for Jerry Baltz, and it scares me to death to think that there's going to be liquid manure spreading. It's one thing to accept it if it's coming from Waseda or Dorkarma Farms because of their farming practices. And I've been organic and natural for over 30 years. I can accept that there's a cost of doing business, but I just cannot live with factory farming spreading manure to the west of me and to the north of me, and it just sickens me. So please take Mr. Barkey's statement seriously and protect us. Thank you.
Are those fields owned by someone else or not your fields?
They are, and I believe that the owner had passed away last year, so I don't know if I mean, there's still a for sale sign to the west of me, but I don't understand. I just know that Jerry's still farming those two parcels, and I have seen Shop SCHOPF. I've seen their equipment come in for harvesting time, so I can tell that they're contracted, and I can just see where it would be easy for Jerry, because he doesn't own the land, because he doesn't live there, to do what would make, good business sense for him, but it wouldn't necessarily make for a very good neighbor, and he would not want that done to him. So anyways, I've said my piece. Thank you.
Thank you. Board? Or we didn't have anybody else, did we?
That's all.
Go ahead.
I got a letter from a guy I used to go to high school with, and I forwarded it to the board. He said, please, think about doing some kind of ordinance against this. And he probably knew he was preaching to the choir, because my involvement with the Niagara Escarpment has taught me a lot about the geology of all of Door County. And while the state defines a CAFO as an operation that exceeds 999 cows, Door County can't even support that. I strongly support this ordinance amendment, and I would like to see our board actually go farther and appeal to the state to avoid the cookie cutter label of 999 cows being okay and not considered a concentrated feedlot, because the geology in Wisconsin is not all the same. And with the escarpment running all the way from Calumet County through the tip of Door County, I don't think Door County is eligible for 999 cows anywhere, and being consistent with safety with our karst topography. That's all.
Okay, anybody else? Going back to Mike Barkey's comment about haulers coming in from outside, if you look at section 4 and section 5, well, in section 6, the reference is no person shall spray liquid manure, no person shall create a substantial threat to public health. Any person violating section 4 of the ordinance and so forth, subject to a fine. From a legal standpoint, I would think that would prohibit anybody from the outside coming in doing the spraying, but maybe we need to have that clarified by legal counsel.
I would like to see that.
And I notice, and I'll refer this to Bud, that the fine, not less than 500 nor more than 5,000 for each violation. I think we ought to take that up considerably,
Yeah.
make it really, really hurt. Are we restricted on that?
Well, you have to make it reasonable, because if you jack it way up and
Well,
yell in front of a judge, they'll knock it down because he might say it's unreasonable, so keep that in mind also.
Okay. Mike?
John, if you're looking for sample ordinances, you might look to, as Don Frick said in his email, to the town of Nashotah and the city or village of Delafield. I looked at their ordinances, and you might use those as guides, and I'm sure
Okay.
that their corporate council reviewed those before they became ordinances.
In definition number 3, can we do something to address Nancy's concern in terms of putting in a number in terms of what we consider, you know, the type of farm that we would not allow any type of liquid manure in, coming into the township? You know, if you're talking 1,000 cattle or, 5,000 cattle, and like she said, there's no farms up here that can accommodate that many animals.
Our plan commission heard a conditional use last year for a beef cattle operation across from Kepsel's Farm Market. And we tried at the plan commission level, the first kick at the cat, if you will. They have to go through plan commission and then the board and then finally to the RPC. We tried every which way but Sunday to define what is your end game. Well, we've got about 12 cattle now, maybe, bringing in like 30 more by spring. But what is your end game? What do you intend to have there? And we never got an answer to that. And then when they came before the board, the same set of questions was asked. What are you looking for here ultimately? Well, that's what we were trying to find out. Did not get an answer, to the point where our recommendation to the RPC was, please try and get some numbers here so we know what we're dealing with. They can have up to 999 cows on that land, beef cattle, if you will. And that, with our topography, I don't feel is a safe situation anywhere in Door County.
No, that's the county applied that logic, right? For the 999.
No, that's statewide.
But the county went along with it,
Yep,
obviously.
yep. And I think that should be changed. Boy, do I think that should be changed.
Can we change that locally without,
Well, technically, we're under county zoning, so we could ask for a text amendment.
We could ask for a text amendment. I guess what I would rather try to do is to entreat the county to take a look at it. There are a couple of county, Mariah Good is on our escarpment board. She understands, of course, they've got their hands full with Act 67, trying to scramble. But I would like to see something bigger than just us, but in the meantime, I'd like to see us protected and work on something bigger, either at the state level or the county level, particularly the county level, because we're the county that is what I view as most vulnerable in this situation.
Would it pay to ask Mariah to come before us and perhaps the county board chairman and express our deep concern about this, that this is just not acceptable, period?
Right. And, rather than wait for something to happen like happened in Kiwanee, we're trying to get out ahead of it. I'll talk with her and see what she suggests and recommends.
Carl?
There's really two issues here. The one that you're talking about is the existence of 999 cattle on a feedlot like the one across from Kepsel's farm. But there's also another issue that you have to pay attention to, because if you're a farmer up here, for example, and there's a big article about this, I think in the Advocate a year or two ago. Let's say Eli has a field go fallow, so he's not planting anything on it. He can rent that acreage out to a CAFO farm so they can come and spray their manure on it, which they do. And this is common practice up here. So you can, make the cattle illegitimate, but it doesn't stop the land from being utilized in this manure spreading manner. So it's a matter to consider in tandem with the number of cattle.
I talked to, who's the guy from Soil and Water? Anyway, I talked to him when we were looking at manure spreading up here a while ago, and he said when you're doing a contract with someone who's renting your land, you can specify in your contract that no manure spreading. So individual property owners can do it, but it's not gonna cover the whole town like we're talking about here.
Right,
And I would think many property owners don't realize that they can do that when they do a contract with a farmer.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move that we accept ordinance number 15-2 simply so that we can implement section 4, and with the caveat that we can come back at a later time and redefine definition to include the number of cattle on a particular farm.
Is there a second?
Because we have to address the fact that they can dump the manure now. That has to be addressed first.
Ordinance 15-2 is already in place.
Yeah,
Oh,
This isn't a new one, it's already in place. So you don't have to adopt it.
okay.
What you have to do is amend it or replace it, as Mike Barkey has suggested maybe. Replace it with a tighter ordinance, which I'm happy to go and find somebody else's ordinance and come back with a
I think
replacement ordinance, if you will.
That's what I would like to see, something that prohibits anyone that any waste that is not generated in the town of Liberty Grove stays outside of the town of Liberty Grove.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think we want to make it as tight as we possibly can, and for violation of that, make it as stiff as we can. Mike?
As Nancy has said, that's to paraphrase the ordinances of these other
Right.
Right.
villages and towns I mentioned, is pretty much that that the spreading is only for the manure that's produced within that jurisdiction or municipality and not from outside, not being accepted.
Right. And then to address Carl's other point, yeah, I would like to see the board, the Plan Commission already has alluded to and written language in our yet-to-be ratified, if you will, new comprehensive plan about CAFOs. And we've already got that groundwork laid. I would like to see the town take that up, limiting if we can, being tighter than the state, 999 cows, see that number cut down a little bit, or at least link it with the amount of acreage they have to have in order to have, that many animals.
That's a good point. One of the problems we have here is we're running up against county ordinance, and
Again,
we're kind of at the end of the, at the end of the line here. We have to follow what they're doing. So I think we have to figure out a way to put as much heat on the county, to address this issue beyond what they have already done. But Janet, if you will, take a look at some of those ordinances and bring them back to us at the next meeting. And then, we'll see what happens with the county. And we'll let the county know exactly what we're doing, so.
yeah.
I don't think that the town of Woodbury Grove is the only town that's
Absolutely
discussing
not.
this now. Forestville, Gibraltar, and others, so
Good,
you're not alone.
great.
I wonder if we ought to talk to some of the other boards.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest maybe,
To put pressure on the county.
Yeah,
but if you'd reach out, or Janet reach out to the other towns in the county and simply say, we have a deep concern about this and feel that at the county level, it's not restrictive enough, and we're gonna, see what we can do.
What's been done with other issues that, have been discussed with other boards? When an ordinance is passed, we have gotten copies of the ordinance from other municipalities, and they say, take a look at what we've just passed, we strongly suggest you do the same.
There you go. Yeah,
Mhm,
that makes sense. Okay. We have the marching orders here. Okay, then let's go on to number 14, consider approval of company for invasive species. You should have a copy of that in the packet. Any questions? Janet, you have a comment on that one?
Just, the sample letter,
Yeah.
the sample agreement, that's how it would go out to, they sent a spreadsheet after they did their inventory of all the people who would
Oh,
be
okay.
involved. in
Are the only
contract.
people on the shore?
Mostly, yes.
Mostly less. The reason I ask is because our neighbor to the south owns a 2.7 acre pond where the county did some mining. And it's not a real deep thing, maybe, waist high at the deepest, but Phragmites have taken hold on one end. And when they bought the property a couple of years ago, I pointed it out to them and said, you are going to want to do something about that, or you will have a field of Phragmites here. And he said, well, what do I do? Who do I contact? So I printed out the sample letter in agreement and left it on my kitchen table with the rest of my paperwork. Would he be able to contact them and make some sort of an arrangement with them?
If it's Phragmites, he can be included in the inventory.
That's what I was hoping.
Yeah.
It is Phragmites. Oh,
I
yes.
can show you the list. I mean, there's 40 or 45 people. I don't have them all memorized. He
Yeah.
might be on that list.
He's not on the lake shore at all.
But-
It's
but
just,
It isn't just Lake Shore. They
Okay.
inventoried Liberty Grove.
well, I printed it out and I'm going to walk it over there to him when he comes up on the weekend and,
Yeah. And if it's Phragmites, he can definitely be put on the list.
awesome.
They also found a patch of
Japanese knotweed.
that, behind the post office.
I saw
and
that.
The man is willing to treat it, and it would be part of the cost-sharing, thing that's going on with the county.
I thought the prices seemed very reasonable.
Yeah.
Are they looking for money from us?
At this point, no.
No.
The bill will be paid according to the quote that, that company has given us. For the, Phragmites, it's, $127.
Yeah.
And until he looks at the knotweed, he doesn't know exactly, but he doesn't, he doesn't think it's going to be a lot. Knotweed is a little more expensive, it takes a different type of chemical. But when we do those bills, we turn that over to the county, and then we're part of the cost share. So,
Okay, and they're not going to be starting in Door County until after Labor Day, as noted here, so. Any other questions? Then I'll make a motion to approve the proposal from Natural Care Ecological Consulting and Services as presented.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, going on. Consider uses of Clinky Garage and the contents. We have a number of people that would like to speak.
Nancy Kurtz, 12025 Cedar Shore Road. Before I meant, I'm sure you're aware of the knotweed, Japanese knotweed that's on Mink River Road, right just north of, east of Lakewood, on the south side. It's almost into the road now, so I don't know if that's part of what you were talking about. But anyway, regarding the Gus Clinky Garage, in your packets, I hope you have received a letter that the Liberty Grove Historical Society has submitted to you. In that letter addressed to Mr. Combs, we have, and the letter was written by Karen Moran, who is here today, and she is our curator for the museum. I don't want to read the whole thing, but have you all had a chance to read it? You have, okay. So we just want you to know that we're very much interested in helping assess the contents of the garage, and with the idea of protecting and preserving for historic purposes items that would be appropriate to remove from the garage, and perhaps to give some thoughts as to how to display, if you will, in its natural state, those items that would not be appropriate to move out of the garage. I don't know if you have any questions. I think the letter pretty much covers our thoughts on that. We would like to have the opportunity next month to get together with you in some way to take a look at what's actually in there. I understand there may be some photographing of what's the contents, and then we could help make a list and offer our services in whatever way we can be of use. But we definitely want to include that. The Clinky family has been donating some items in the last few weeks to the Historical Society Museum, and so there are things that would go along with that that are in the garage. And if you have any questions, we're happy to answer.
Any questions, anybody? Good, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Somebody else wanted to talk on that, right?
I
That was it?
answered,
Okay.
that's all.
Okay, we have a number of photographs, I believe, of the contents.
here we go.
Here we go.
Bud, you have to do the commentary.
Snowmobiles.
Thank you, Bud.
This is the lift that's for vehicles, tires, oil changing apparatus. There's some kind of a whole bunch of bottles up there against the wall, and then your stack of metal containers, that might be, is that for the
Cheese.
creamery type thing?
Yeah, the white boxes are the supers for the beehives.
We'll get there.
And the motorbike.
What kind of motorbike is it?
I don't know, I didn't look close at it. There's beekeeping boxes, I believe. The stove for heating. Beekeeping book.
There's a bunch of books on
Lots
different items.
And they've gotten wet and they're all getting,
And
they're
on
stiff.
on the left are
Hang on, hang on.
receipts that he made. People would come in and have some work done, they'd write up a receipt, and some of them marked paid, some of them aren't marked paid.
Yep.
But those are all of his
Maybe we
receipts.
could sell those that are not marked paid.
There's one marked charge that I brought back, and there's one from the town of Liberty Grove too. Four pick handles for 55 cents apiece.
A lot of interest on those over the years, it could be a significant amount of money.
I'll make sure.
Take him a bunch of chickens.
Parts and more parts. There's a wooden wheel and a Reynolds Preserving Company cherry box there. I think that was a leather jacket. I didn't touch it. I thought it might fall apart. A drill press made out of a hand drill. Outboard motors. Filter display rack.
There's a lot of material that's in the original boxes.
Oh, yeah. That looks like a compressor there.
What are those in my garage?
There's a hand pump. Vise. Stuff. There's a reciprocating chainsaw, it's not a chainsaw, but a power saw back there, standing vertically right next to that outboard motor. Another drill press.
Dead horse.
This is in the back, the lean-to in the corner back there. If it was made, it's there. That sign back there says Ellison Bay Pottery, 1/2 mile, Garrett Bay Road.
Toilet in there?
Yeah, there is.
Lanterns. There's an old gas pump. Another drill press or some kind of press.
Point out the fuse box.
Fuse box up on the upper right.
I think this thing's meant to call alien. That thing.
Right there. I think that is an alien.
E.T.
That's where you got to do with last, I would think.
There's your
Could be.
alien.
Here's one of the receipts. 5 gallons of gas for 97 cents.
Wow.
Sled.
Those are his overalls.
Pair of coveralls
Hanging there.
back there.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yep.
That back on the floor was either a butter churn or a ice cream maker. It had a crank on top. Tons of manuals all over the place. There's the shoring up of the roof several years ago. Those vertical
Oh,
posts there are holding the
Those are
trusses up.
Those are 2x4s.
There may be two of them together.
Ooh.
Parts bin. Pipe vise in the foreground there.
What's the pull lock?
I don't know. Have to look at that. There's a slug of dock spikes that back there in the middle of the
Yep.
picture. There's the main fuse box on the south wall.
I actually had somebody who was gonna come in and wire that garage so we could use it. Then the electric company came in and cut the line out at the pole.
Smart move. There's the back of the snowmobiles looking toward the west. There's one of the engines, the Kohler 8 horsepower cast iron engine. That's it.
Okay, we had Bud go and obviously take the photographs, so we have somewhat of an idea of what's inside the building. We are also in the process of making a contact with a structural engineer to determine the safety of the building itself, from a structural standpoint. I would think that the town would want to have the Historical Society, figure out what they would like to keep out of that building. I had an interesting discussion with Beth Coleman on this, and she suggested after we go through that process, maybe the thing to do is to auction off the remaining of the contents, and take that money raised from the auction, set it aside for a fund to preserve the building. And I thought that was a very interesting idea to do that. Once we get the opinion back from the structural engineer, I think we'll have a better idea of what we're facing. I'm not sure we're ever going to be able to get to the point of opening the building to the public, but if that was a possibility, it'd probably be kind of neat to have that happen. And I noticed in the letter that a sign about the cheese factory, and if you remember, we saw the deed to the property mentioned, the cheese factory aspect of it, and that's an interesting part of our history. So, Gary?
The gentleman who did the structural work on the barn, on the garage.
Correct.
Was Jim Grossi.
Right.
And then TNT Roofing put a new roof on it for us.
Okay.
But Jim went in and put all of the new rafters in and then shored up all the walls.
Okay.
And the building was painted back in, I think it was 99. So the paint that's on it now does not have any lead in it. I've been asked about that already.
No. The assumption would be the paint under that, if it wasn't scraped off, might very well.
It was scraped.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Good. Well, what I'd like to suggest is that we work with the Historical Society, get their input as to, possible uses for the building, and move forward from that point, and, open it up to the public and let them decide. It would be, it would be a shame to see the building not remain, I guess, the way I look at it, so. I don't know, if anybody else on the board want to make a comment, please do.
There are some restrictions that Bud mentioned at the last meeting in terms of how they actually would use the building though, isn't there?
Yeah.
Well, because it was a service station, even with the Phase 1 environmental, they're not 100% sure what's in the ground.
Right.
So the
And the lift has
recommendation,
never been moved, so we have no idea what's underneath the lift.
the recommendation is that we really don't dig into the ground, because if we do disturb stuff there and start something going on, then we do become responsible for whatever might come of that. At this point, we're not liable for anything because we're just on the surface.
However, if in talking with an engineer about the soundness of the building, if it's determined that the building itself is sound or could be made sound, we could theoretically open it to the public, I would think, with like handicapped access porta potty bathrooms. I mean, I know you have to have bathrooms for the public, but I don't know that you have to actually dig in plumbing or not. I guess that'd be something to talk to Brett Timmy about.
If there was a proposal to do something like that, then we'd have to get somebody from the DNR environmental up here to work with us on that, so we didn't get into a pickle.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the little building that juts out on the south side is a bathroom. There was a toilet in there, so I had no idea where it went. So there's
Are we,
either,
are we speaking of the toilet or the waste?
no, the toilet's still there. I
Oh,
have no
okay.
idea
All right.
what was in the toilet, where that went.
Yeah, I would suspect there's not a very viable septic system.
And there's a bunch of old tires on the north side of the lean-to, still laying there.
Okay. All right, any other comments? We have our work cut out for us. Okay, going on. Consider approval of Resolution 5-18, appointment of the administrator to the Board of Review. I'll move approval of Resolution 518.
418.
418.
Well, I think it should be 518.
No, it shouldn't.
Oh, 418. Okay.
I'll second that.
It depends on who did the resolution, I guess.
18-4.
There's a correction here, it should be 18-4, but I think we'll go with 418.
We will go with.
All right, all in favor of the resolution indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And now the resolution ordinance 218, or 18-2, depending on who put this together, would be to appoint Yvonne Dwanch as a alternate member to the Board of Review. And I'll move the approval of ordinance 218.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. Okay, moving on. Consider approval of Resolution 518, increasing funding for town roads. Bud?
This comes from the Towns Association. They're statewide trying to keep the heat on the legislature to get their hind end in gear and get something done to increase road aid to various municipalities. There was a scenario and an article in the news magazine which says if you don't fix the roads, you got to fix your car, basically. So this is to reiterate again the need for something to be done to either user fees or license plate increase, tax gas increase, something that could and should be done by the legislature.
Questions? How much do we get a year approximately?
Around 220 to 240,000 in that
Okay.
range. And it costs, we're spent 500,000 just for paving this year.
Okay, I'll move approval of Resolution 518, requesting.
I'll second that.
No. Any other discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that carries. Thank you. Commercial launch. Janet?
We have some. have one. Hang on. We have one from Door County Kayak Tours. Their certificate of insurance is in. They have us as additional named insured. They paid their fee. We also have one from Lakeshore Adventures. Again, we've got their certificate of insurance. We are named insured. They've paid their fees. These two organizations heavily use Garrett Bagel, the launch, heavily.
Any questions? I'll move the approval of the commercial launch passes as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Operator license, Janet?
One, it's a new person, no record found, working at Island Orchard Cider.
I'll make a
What's his
motion,
Person's name is Patricia M. Hansen.
I'll make a motion to approve the operator license for Patricia Hansen.
I'll second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Correspondence.
Resource Planning Committee meets on Thursday, August 2nd at 2 PM, Town of Liberty Grove. WPS is requesting a conditional use permit. They're proposing expanding an existing Type B facility, which includes upgrades to the substation equipment and replacement of a building. It's at 10263 Highway 57.
It's across from Dovetail.
Right. The Door County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, the RPC is amending sections in the zoning ordinance related to secondary dwelling unit regulations and accessory structure regulations. Otis Elevator has inspected our elevator, and it's in acceptable working condition. A letter from a person who has a grease trap who was inspected and passed, but then was included on the list of not being inspected, so it triggered a concerned response, and we have calmed them down. They've been taken off the list of non-inspected people.
Very well documented letter, by the way.
And the Board of Adjustment is meeting on July 24th, 6:30 PM for a, Link Media is appealing, and this one was,
They've dropped that.
I think they got
Yeah.
canceled.
They've postponed it. They didn't totally cancel it yet, but
yeah.
they're not rattling the saber anymore.
And notice of payment, quarterly payment of our state aids, highway aids of $60,620.87. So if you multiply that by 4, it's about 240,000. That's it.
Okay.
Fire board meets on the 30th.
Future meetings?
Jumping the gun over there.
Oh, sorry. Correspondence I got today.
Not a lot going on the rest of the month.
There's not much left of the month.
Monday, the 30th, is the first day to vote in the office for the pending primary.
And that, Gary, you said that's Fire Board,
Yeah,
July 30th?
yep,
What time?
8 o'clock.
Fire Board, 8 AM.
Yep.
Town Board, Wednesday the 1st. Board of Review notice is going into the paper. Board of Review will be August 22nd at 1 to 3 p.m. Plan Commission on the 8th, or no?
We threw that in there,
Yeah,
a placeholder.
yeah. I don't know if I'll be here for it or not.
Utility District Number 1 meets the same day at 4:30. Partisan Primary on the 14th. Parks and Property, 9 o'clock that same day. Town Board, the 15th. Plan Commission, the 7th is on the calendar. And Blues on the Bay is at the Women's Club on Saturday, the 25th.
Mhm.
That would pretty much be it through August.
Okay, before I move to adjourn, I would like to share with you a quote from Edith Wharton.
Who?
Edith Wharton. I don't know, but I like the quote. We ought to be opening a bottle of wine. I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you,
Where's the wine?
everybody.
Yeah, where's the wine?
Stuff.